Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 29 of From the Van. It's a podcast from my van, where I have conversations with people who have relationships with residential vehicles. Today's episode features Dave and Matt, who come from the world of finance and teaching, respectively. They run a company called dmvans.com, Dave and Matt Vans, where they build out basic camper vans with everything that you need to live in them and nothing that you don't, so that you can customize it for your lifestyle. I went into this conversation expecting to have a conversation with them about their business, which we did, and that was fantastic. But then we got into a really interesting conversation about affordable housing, specifically in the Colorado Rockies, but also elsewhere, and the way that vans sort of fit into our modern housing landscape. Also talked about a theme that sort of comes out when you talk to vanners on a regular basis, that they seem to have fleshed out a little bit more than some others, which they call vanland. And just basically the amenities that you don't have in your van, but you'd like to drive to, sort of a membership basis, like a gym on steroids, if you're familiar with what van lifers use a gym for. I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope that you do too. Please enjoy episode 29 of From the Van, featuring Dave and Matt. All right, Matt and Dave. We are in Eagle, Colorado, is that right?
Technically Gypsum.
Oh, we just passed
Just past Eagle.
Okay.
We're next to the Eagle Airport.
Right.
In Gypsum, Colorado.
Okay.
In Vail Valley.
All right. And how long have you guys been, it's Dave and Matt Vans?
Yep.
And how long have you been in business?
We officially started Jan 1 of this year.
Oh.
We were building about a year ago. We actually sold our first van.
Next week, Wednesday.
Yeah, almost a year ago.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, just started as more of a, I was renting out vans in Minneapolis, and he had built his own van, and he told me the cost of it, and I was like, that's way cheaper than what I'm buying my rental fleet for. So
right.
The original plan was he was going to teach me. I was going to go back to Minnesota, build out some vans for my rental fleet, but we just kept building them, and they kept selling, and by the end of the year, we're like, crap, we got to start a business.
Yeah.
Because we had sold probably 3 at that point.
Yeah.
And now we've got probably at the end of the month, I think it's 36 on the road.
Jeez.
Sold about 30,
in a year.
30 this year.
Yeah.
Crap. Okay, so I just went into your I want to get into like why and the origin and all of that, but I just went into your place, and 36 in a year is a lot for 2 people, but you have a team now, right?
We've recently assembled a team.
Okay.
Kind of started with some friends helping us out in the evenings.
Right.
It's then hiring 2 full-time employees. We now have 2 and basically an intern, an apprentice.
Wow.
So 3 in the shop.
And how many bands are you doing at the same time?
4 at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, we just moved into this workshop last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
where were you doing it before?
Literally across the street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we had 2 vans. We could fit 4 in that workshop, but you couldn't actually fit another person in there.
Mm-hmm.
So realistically, we'd work at 2 at a time.
Yeah.
So just moved in here where we get 4 going at a time.
Right. And they're all Promasters.
All Promasters.
Is that how you guys keep the cost down? Is like you have like a template?
Yeah, we've systematized everything. So we have templates for everything. We only do Promasters. We do the short or long wheelbase. So we have a template for both.
Okay.
But it allows us to speed the process up exponentially compared to especially other van builders.
Yeah.
It took me 3 months to build my first one. Probably longer. It takes us now 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And in terms of customization and stuff, what do you guys offer?
Yeah, we have a customization menu, basically.
Okay.
So we have a stock build that, is adventure ready, right? You're on the road and going. We say everything you need, nothing you don't in that stock build. And then we do have a list that's growing of things that I live in my van, so I test things out, see how that works, and then we'll start offering them on a menu. So we offer rear seats with seat belts.
Right.
We offer, swing arm tables. We offer storage benches, upper cabinets.
Okay.
You can expand the electrical system,
right.
But it's all on that same base platform. Yeah.
I'm obsessed with electrical because I like computers, and I want, when I get a bigger van and build it out, I'm fully intend to make all my entire kitchen electrical if I can.
Yeah.
What's the base electrical situation in your
Yeah, so we basically have a 200 amp hour battery that runs everything. As far as charging the battery, we've got solar on the roof, so a 175 watt panel. And we also hooked our isolator or our alternator up through an isolator to charge the battery while driving. And then we just have 7 accessories. So what we've basically done over time is tried to figure out what are the essential things that people would need to hit the road with, and just focus on those things and not get into all the frills and the extras and all the, gizmos and gadgets that you can put in these things. So we just have a very basic setup, which is 2 roof vents, the LED lights, just like yours, with the dimmer switch, which probably the same dimmer switch that we have as well.
But you probably didn't dig it out with like just a drill bit.
Yeah, ours is on a faceplate, but it's still functional, so that's the biggest thing there. And then just a water pump, refrigerator. We have an under bed LED light system. So,
cool.
If you're at night trying to get stuff out of the cargo area, you can get stuff there. And then I just mentioned a refrigerator. And then we have a USB charger, and that's pretty much it.
Okay.
So
electric sink too.
Yeah, and the water pump there. So the essence of what Matt was saying, all these add-ons that we've added have either been from our own experience of figuring out, what do you need to be on the road and live comfortably, or just from feedback from customers. So people saying, hey, I'd really love upper cabinets, and we probably got 15 requests for that, so we finally said, let's build upper cabinets.
Just figured out how to do it and like scale it up or whatever.
Yep.
Yep.
Are you using lithium or gel?
Right now we're using AGM.
Okay.
We're probably going to introduce a more the works package would be what we'd call it, where if you really wanted to upgrade the system above our base build, you can, but our goal again is that base build should be when you leave this lot, you don't need anything else.
Right.
It's purely if you wanted something else, like for you, maybe if you had more electronics or you wanted to beef up the electrical system, we're probably going to offer a 200 amp hour lithium package with a little bit more solar and all that, but wanting to stick to our roots of we want people to leave the lot with our base build and not have to change anything.
Yeah, cool.
Because we hated those car companies when they put up an ad where it says you could get this car for $29,000, and it says as shown $49,000. You're like, well, so I can't get that car.
It doesn't come with windows.
Yeah, if you want all 4 wheels, it's going to be. So we wanted our base package to actually be legitimate. You don't need anything else.
So you're living in your van here?
Yes.
I don't do cold.
Yeah.
And Colette and I are actually, she grew up in San Diego and I've been living there for a long time. We actually complain about 80 degrees too.
Yeah.
And it gets both of those things here. How do you deal with the temperature change, fluctuation?
For one, slightly confusing in that we are in Vail, but Vail is about 30 minutes, farther east.
And it's way more moderate
2,500 feet up.
Yeah.
And so you're dealing with drastic temperature changes there. Whereas we're down in we call it the banana belt, Eagle, Colorado, Gypsum, Colorado, where temperatures stay pretty moderate. We deal with highs right now in the fall, it's like 70s, perfect weather. In the summer, it gets up to 90, but it's dry. And then during the summer and the night, perfect sleeping temperature.
Sure.
We're looking at 40, 50 degrees.
Oh, okay. Because we're still at a pretty high elevation.
Which is primo. You've got blankets on all winter, all summer, but it's nice sleeping weather. And then winter here, so I've never actually lived in a van in the winter.
Okay.
I did it last summer and now this summer. And our vans are fully insulated. We just put a heater in. So we have a full thermostat, pulls off the gas cap heater that I've used the last few nights. It's been getting a little chilly. Winter's coming.
Right.
But that fully climatized the van and totally doable. So
you're going to do it this year?
I'm going to stay in until the plan right now is till November.
Okay.
And we'll see from there.
Right. Yeah, I always wondered how extreme you would have to outfit a van to make it like an actual 4-season thing.
To be honest, it's not the temperature that's the issue. It's most of our public lands here closed down mid-November.
Okay.
And so our workshop actually it's 1 mile from the public land.
Okay.
And so we can go up there and camp.
Right. Is that BLM?
14. Yeah, BLM. Okay. So 14 days at a time you can camp up there.
Yeah.
Basically, we just go sleep one place else. You
just move around
day and then go back up. Yeah. But they close that. I think it's November 15th.
Oh, okay.
So after that, you start to lose a lot of those battles of places to be.
Yeah.
Whereas to me, I love it because I'm up in a quiet, beautiful place.
Sure.
Winter, you're more down on the roads in a parking lot, things like that. So you kind of lose that appeal.
Loses the allure. Yeah. Are you living here full time now?
Yes, I've lived out of my van for about 3.5 years now.
Okay.
And I have a furnace in mine. So I actually bought a Class B RV 3.5 years ago before I even knew this camper van thing was actually a thing. But yeah, so mine is a 22-foot Sprinter. And to answer your question about the heat, so mine is fully, there's windows throughout the entire thing, so you lose all the insulation there.
Sure.
I don't know how well insulated it's an RV build, so I don't know exactly how insulated it was from the beginning.
I think
but
there's
probably
some duct tape on the
it's probably
the seams in there.
probably not crazy insulated. Those RV companies tend not to do heavy insulation.
Right.
And I just have a furnace that I keep at 55 degrees and a propane tank, and it lasts for 2 to 3 weeks at a time.
Yeah, you're set up.
And there's no issues. So in ours, with the full insulation and the spray foam, and I mean, I don't know, your heater probably turns on 3 times a night to keep it at 55 degrees. It's just, it's super easy, and it's such a small, it's 40 square feet, so it's such a small space, and especially with yours, like a low roof one, the heat's going to rise, but it's going to stop right here, so it's only 3 feet from your head. So
I didn't do spray insulation. I have polyiso in all of the walls.
That was my original build, and our floors are still polyiso board.
Okay, why did you switch it up? Just because of cracks and...
It cracks, it nooks and cracks, and it's just easier. To be honest, once you get good at spray foam, you have a controlled place to do it. It's fast.
Yeah. I figured it would be, but I also thought that, like, if I tried to do it myself the first time or whatever, it'd just be a giant mess, right?
Yeah, our first time around was a little tricky. I think I called Matt a couple times before going in there, being like, if I don't make it out of here, because it's all toxic, and you gotta have the respirator and all of that. But once I did it, I called him, because I think our first installation took, I don't know, in our high roof one, it probably took 24 hours a time. Spray foam took 35 minutes.
Wow.
So it was just like the cost we could save our customers was astronomical. I think our insulation cost went down by like $1,000 after we did that.
Especially when you can spray 4 vans on the same day or something like that.
Yep. Yeah. And that's how we have our team do it. They basically, we'll have one person sort of going ahead prepping the vans, and then our spray foam guy will come behind there, spray the van, move on to the next one, and just do 4, and then get some fresh air after that. But
we call it spray foam art now, though. They're getting pretty good at it, and they put patterns in there.
Cool. Talk to me about your old rental fleet. What was that about?
Yeah, so it was a random sort of story of how that started. So I was working in New York City in finance.
It's pronounced finance.
Finance. I forgot that accent's on the side there. But so I was there for probably 7 years. Had always been interested in RVs and camper vans, and just anything that you could live out of on the road is just incredible to me. I was working with a big company, left that to work with another buddy of ours from college, and then I split off from him to start my own little thing. And when I was doing that, it was so much work to start up this process, and I just bought my first van, the one I'm still living out of. I couldn't use it, and so I found these websites like Outdoorsy and RV Share, and I was like, well, we'll see what happens. I'll put it up there, and I expected, this was back in Minneapolis at this point, I was like, hey, maybe we'll rent for a weekend or a couple weeks or whatever, and it booked for like 4 months straight.
Wow.
And so I was like, that was interesting. And so summer ended, January rolled around the next year, it was already booked up for the whole summer. So I just bought another one, that one booked up, I bought another one, and it just kind of snowballed into that. And then that's when I, probably 2 years later, Matt and I ran into each other at a annual golf trip that we do, and he was talking about either buying or building or figuring out a camper van situation out here in Vail. And I was like, hey, I've been renting these for like 2 years, so if you have any questions and costs, and that's how the whole conversation started. Was, I was trying to drop whatever knowledge I could on him, and then he came back and said, hey, I'm going to build this one, and this is going to be the budget. And I was like, I'm coming out to Vail. So now it's been a year, and we're full on. So
cool. Where do you go in the winter when you leave here?
So basically this last winter I was just here.
Oh, okay.
So we
does production shut down?
No. Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, so we thought the winter was going to be slow last year. So Matt was a teacher last year. He's been a teacher for 8 years now, and we basically were like, hey, like this is getting some traction. Let's sort of take the winter to plan and prep how we want to hit the ground running in the spring. And we were talking about like we should have like 2 to 3 vans that we could sell come springtime, and that'd be awesome. Mm-hmm. And like we sold probably 6 or 7 over the winter. So it was unexpected. So like Matt was coaching lacrosse and teaching, and then coming here on Sundays, and I was just building full time and trying to, build 6 of these. So that was an unexpected change. But we found that there's a lot of skiers. There's a lot of people that like to, chase powder or go wherever they want to go and ski. So we kind of underestimated that. But yeah, so we just hung out here and found, like Matt said, found ways to live out of the winter when the BLM land closed. But yeah, so it's been, there's no downtime really. Like we thought every season we're like, oh, there'll probably be a slow time here. Right. It just doesn't happen. So
kind of the beauty about here too is our fall, if you go down to the desert, lasts until November. Yeah. So basically there's that season where you can either ski in Vail or go ride bikes or hike down in Moab or Fruta. So people are still planning fall trips and want a van for it.
Right.
And then spring, if you go down the desert, really starts in February, March. And so once you hit kind of December, January, people are already starting to think about their spring adventure mobile.
Sure.
And hit us up, and then we kind of start planning for that.
Yeah.
Which we're already getting right now. Like we're already getting people on the schedule for January, February, looking for that spring build. So
I feel like just living down in San Diego County, and I want to talk about the politics of like van life and that sort of thing in a minute. But I feel like in the winter is like when everybody is in San Diego County because it's 70 degrees, you know, and sunny. And then when it gets tolerable at altitude and latitude, then everybody disperses and there's nobody there during the summer. And so, I know a bunch of people who went down to Mexico over January and that sort of thing. What's your clientele like in terms of who's buying vans? Is it folks who are looking for an adventure mobile and they live, kind of close by but want to be able to drive around and stay in their vehicle? Or is it people who are actually like actively moving out of brick and mortar homes?
We've had every walk of life come through. It's been my favorite part about this job is we've got 36 on the road by the end of this month, and to me all 36 have an awesome story.
Right.
It's everything from young couples in Denver who want a place to go on a camping trip with a kid in the back. We install seats in the back for them. So it's probably our number one clientele are younger couples from cities.
Families.
Yeah, whether that we've had some from the Bay Area, we had Pacific Northwest, we've had actually San Diego, LA area. After that, it's athletes. We've got skier. One of our first vans was sold to a guy who was going on a 6-month ski trip. He was trying to hit basically every resort in the West all last winter. We've got professional CrossFitters.
Sure. It's guy like traditional dirt bags.
It could be, yeah. Anyone who needs to move for their sport. Rock climbers for sure. Mountain bikers. We've got one guy who lives and works full time on his van. With basically a pursuit of mountain biking. He's a programmer, so works in the van, takes his bike, and every time I see his Instagram story, he's in British Columbia or Jackson Hole or mountain bike meccas. Working, and it's like, I think you got this figured out, man. Who am I missing in there?
Well, and I think we've got, like you said, all walks of life of just people that probably, if I was to guess, were hippies back in the 70s. And were doing it back then.
The old retired.
And now they're coming full circle.
You got some middle-aged clientele and stuff too.
And some late-age retirees. And so it's been really interesting to see, and I think that's been the great part about the build that Matt put together was he did on the teacher's budget, so essentially he just needed the basics in there, whatever he needs to go mountain bike, whatever you need to do, but the build is very simplistic. So like I said, there's not all these frills and bells and whistles, and so it's almost a open canvas for someone else to take it and put their own little touch to it.
Really
so
modular.
Yeah, so we're not building it for any specific sport where it's comes decked out with mountain bike stuff. So if you don't mountain bike, half our van's going to be useless. And so I think most people take our van and they say, great, we either use it as is, we're going to add, this little thing because we do this specific sport, or, one of the older guys is a musician, so like he's got a little place he can strap down his music stuff while he's driving around. So it's nice to allow other people to make it their own versus almost, predefine it for them and tell them, hey, this is what we build, and it's already tailored to everything that we think you need. We're like, hey, these are the essentials. You figure out what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
So that's been nice to see the different variations people have done with their vans.
Just let me start this real quick. Okay, so the thing that's really interesting to me lately is one of my buddies just sent me an article from Outside Online, and there's this huge like rush to the van thing and living in a van, traveling in a van, and that sort of thing. And a bunch of municipalities both in outdoorsy sort of places like the Rockies in Colorado and up in Squamish in British Columbia, but also in metropolitan areas like San Francisco and San Diego, where rent's out of control. People, the dirtbags and the athletes and all of those people, runners and surfers and cyclists and stuff, want to travel around and stuff and stay in their vans, but also in places where rents are going nuts. People are sort of deciding to move into the public space in places where it's not designated, like BLM, that you can just sort of camp for free whenever. And I have my own opinions about whether or not that's appropriate. But what are you guys seeing in terms of like either locally here, in terms of backlash, or your clientele looking to make things super stealth so that they can be in the street and that sort of thing?
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's something we talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Because what we see is this is a growing lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's not changing anytime soon. And so municipalities basically have to do something about it. They have to have some form of policy because it's coming,
right,
whether they want it or not. And so we really want to be proactive, especially in our community here in the Vail Valley, where there's a housing crisis. Kind of same thing in San Francisco or San Diego. Rent prices here are exorbitant, and so you see a lot of people coming out here with that passion for skiing or biking or whatever brings them here, running in the dilemma of they can't stay because they can't afford rent. And that's where our vans really play a role in housing crises.
Yeah.
And so we haven't quite gotten there yet, but our intention is to start talking to our local government as far as what their plan is for it, because we have a solution for a problem. There's a housing crisis. We offer housing through a van. But if, say everyone did it, right, where does everyone park?
Right.
If, more people start doing it, what is the policy? And so we kind of keep looking at these ways of like, getting rec centers involved where there is that shower, there's that place to change, and have that comfort of home.
Sure.
There are so many public parks here, that no one parks them at night, so what kind of, what can the van community give to the community
Sure.
to get back, a place to park, a place to shower, a place to, do laundry, things like that. So it's definitely in the works for us.
Yeah, I think that's the big. So, like, for my experiences, it's been off and on now 3.5 years, and I've always just had to find, like, I've parked in New York City for 2 weeks at a time, and I've lived on the street there, and like, have done it all over the place. And yeah, I think that I get both sides of it, which is from the government perspective. If you have a home here, you're paying taxes on that. They're getting revenue from it that allows them to keep their streets and their parks and everything clean. If everyone lived in a van and they have no tax revenue, none of those services can be funded. And
the
so,
Wild West again.
Yeah. So then it's that combination of, okay, like, how do we prevent people from essentially freeloading off of the amenities that we are, tax-paying people are providing? But I think there's an easy solution, which is some sort of, permit program or some sort of thing where, like, here, we could buy a permit from the town of Gypsum. There's 3 designated parking spaces, parking lots, and you can park there from 9 to 7 a.m. or whatever the times are. But they're very easy solutions to those things. Yeah, I think from our perspective, it's probably the cheapest way to live, and that was sort of the impetus for me to do this, was to be able to start and try to start a couple businesses that were not going to pay me much at the beginning, like $200 a month. This is a very, very inexpensive way to take those risks,
Right.
And do those things. And so it's a very beneficial thing in that we are both contributing back to the town of Gypsum here, because we do belong to the rec center. We shop at the grocery stores. We go to Costco. And I and the other big thing...
and you're running a business that's paying taxes.
Yeah.
But
from your perspective.
from our perspective, for sure.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing, too, that I get from their perspective, and this would be a little bit trickier to try and figure out, is... And I tell people all the time when they ask me, hey, like, how do you physically live? Like, how do you do it? What's the playbook for being able to live out of your van?
Right.
And I always just say, just same with the BLM line here, just be respectful, which is like, we have the leave no trace rules up here where, don't abuse the privilege of being able to park on the street and live out of a van.
Right.
So don't put garbage out in front. Like, don't play loud music. Don't put lawn chairs and tables out in front. Like, just do your thing and like live there and be under the radar.
Keep your head low. Yeah.
Yeah, and don't abuse that privilege, and you'll be fine. And I think that's the big crux too, is that obviously if you just open it up to anyone who lives in a vehicle, I mean, in San Diego, I'm sure you've seen there is a wide range of people that live out of their vehicles, and some people don't treat that privilege well, and they have trash just on top of their RV that's flying off the back sometimes, or
Uncle Eddie.
Yeah. And I've heard of they've got septic systems in there that are leaking all over the street, and it's like, well, you can't have your toilet literally leaking onto the roads, but there's got to be a way to find middle ground in there to have a compromise of saying, look, we can have regulations around what's allowed and what's not allowed, and
a vehicle inspection process of some sort.
So I went to both of the most recent hearings on the new San Diego vehicular habitation ordinance, and the thing that shocks me about it is that the rhetoric is very akin to pretty much every xenophobic othering sort of argument that you hear. Which is, those people are dirty, those people are unclean, those people are unmentionables and unwanted, and that sort of thing. Whereas
hippies are homeless.
Everything that you just mentioned, and all of the much more awful things that they're talking about at these hearings that are associated with people in vans or vehicular habitation, always, they're already illegal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Littering is illegal.
Yep.
Dumping your waste into the street is illegal.
Yeah.
Hanging out with blocking a sidewalk is illegal.
Yeah.
All of this stuff is already illegal. So why don't you enforce the laws that you have, as opposed to arbitrarily criminalizing something that's
interesting.
Not. And then the other question that I have is, there's this guy. Just in the interest of full disclosure, I'm a traffic and parking and policy nerd, and there's this guy in LA named Donald Shoup that I really want to interview. He wrote The High Cost of Free Parking. It's an 800-page parking policy book. And my question is, supposing that I'm doing only legal things in and around my vehicle, and I'm making dinner and watching TV and working in my vehicle, is that a higher utility or lower utility use than somebody who's just storing their private property on public space?
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of times the answer can be, there's a difference between free and a nominal cost, right? Yeah. And everybody should pay a nominal cost to park on public property, right? Now, I mean, the most precious resource that we have as any culture, any society, any municipality is our real estate.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why are we going to give some members of the public access to that and not give other members of the public the same access to that thing?
Yeah.
Have you started talking to the local municipalities around here at all?
We haven't been able to explore that purely because we're only 9 months into the business.
And you're stupid busy.
So we're trying to get this up and running. And I think part of that conversation comes from building this business into something that is a local staple. So like we just had an article written about us in the Vail Daily, which is the local paper here.
I saw that. I was looking for, that's why I hit you up, because I was looking for somebody to give me some advice about where I ought to be going.
And so
I was like, I want to talk to these guys.
But those are the things where if we're giving back to the community, if we're an integral part of the community, that conversation is easier to have.
Sure.
Basically saying, look, like we've established a business here, we've got X amount of customers that have bought these things, and it's really a big, it's a thing here. And I think the other interesting thing I've always thought about with the government conversations, because like I said, I always view it as, they just view it as hippies and homeless, is how I always say it, that live out of vans. And I always just say, like, I would love to show them not only our vans, but like, there's a company in Denver called Van Life Customs that makes $150,000 vans.
Oh, I've seen some of those, and
they are nicer than half the apartments in San Diego. And so it's like, just to show them that, like, hey, this isn't that old Volkswagen bus that just has a couch in the back and there's 8 people sleeping. It's like, no, this is a legitimate home. Like, it has all the amenities. It has all the insulation. It has 4 seasons. Like, it is a livable structure. And I want them just to take a tour and be like, this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about a rundown 1970s Winnebago with 3 wheels. It's on a cinder block on the side of the road. It's like, we're talking about, like, this is a Mercedes Metris. And you've got everything you need in here as far as electrical and, ventilation system and a kitchen. So it's like, just to show them what's changed over the last 40 years. Like, this is actually a very legitimate thing that's going on here, and it's a very legitimate alternative where people like Matt and I that were, well-educated, we're hardworking, we've started this business, like,
I was a local school teacher for 8 years. So.
Yeah. We've opted to live in vans because it offers the same comfort as a home, and it's a fifth of the price. Right.
Well, you can go take it and live somewhere else.
And you can do whatever you want.
We just spent a bunch of time in New York and Montreal and Toronto too.
Yeah.
And that's awesome to be able to, like, have all your stuff there.
Take your life with you.
Turtle philosophy.
Yeah, well, that's my big complaint about traveling lately has been that we've done 7 weeks and it's just been so wonderful. But the chief complaint, and we're so spoiled and all that, but like the chief complaint that we have is, I wish I could spend more time in this place.
Yeah.
I wish I could move slower. The van is too fast almost.
Right.
Well, it's that it enables, that the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
You know that there are a million options for you in the van. So it's almost like you just want to...
You gotta go to the next spot.
You want to go.
Yeah.
Like, we were just in Tahoe for the Adventure Van Expo, and we were, originally planning, it's all right, we're going to leave here Thursday, we're going to leave there Sunday and get back here. And, like, we're sitting there being like, Tahoe's pretty sweet. Like, we should probably stay here for a few more days.
We offered to go on 2 boat rides, and we're like, oh, we should stick around.
And so it's great because it does enable you to have those options. But like you said, at the same time, you're always like, well, there's so much to see.
Yeah.
You want to chase the seasons or whatever you want to do. It's like, man, there's 40,000 miles that you could go around the country in North America that is calling your name. So it's hard sometimes.
Yeah. What's on the horizon for you guys? You just have your heads down, just like building vans, or is there something that you're excited about, some new innovation or something else that you want to add to your project?
Yeah, I think right now the next 6 months is focused on getting our business sustainable, up and running in a very efficient and smooth way, so that we can then focus on these bigger projects. So working with the local governments, potentially expanding in other areas where the camper van life is either a thing, but it's underserved, or they don't even know that it's a thing, but the environment that surrounds them is very conducive to it. So I think about the Southeast a lot. You go to the Outer Banks all the way down to Jacksonville, Florida, huge surfing community, huge kite surfing community, huge outdoors community with the Appalachian Mountains. I never see camper vans there whenever I go there. They're just never around. I see some RVs or whatever, but obviously here, San Diego, you're going to see a lot of them. So we've just thought about, like, how can we enable this lifestyle with our goal in mind, which is affordability, quality, and efficiency. So we don't want this 1-year wait list for people who want to have the van life. We want to get them on the road, living this lifestyle to sort of see how incredible it can be. So that's really our next kind of 1 to 2 years would be, starting to try and expand to different areas. And I think long term, it is either creating a community ourselves. So we joke, we're going to call it Vanland. But a community, almost like a co-working community, is kind of our idea where, van life people can come to this place. there's a central sort of clubhouse that they can all interact with and engage with. And, like you, hey, I'm doing podcasts and this is what I'm doing. There's a graphic designer next to you and a programmer and just share the stories and give you a place to park and sleep and fill up your water and do the essentials that you need, but then, be able to hit the road, but still have sort of a community around it. So that's a longer term vision, but I think, that would be another very fulfilling thing for us.
Seems like every van life meetup that I go to, I end up hearing people having some permutation of that sort of fantasy.
Yeah.
It's like, what if we just had a parking lot where there were laundry machines, Wi-Fi, and this guy Ryan that was on the podcast months ago, we realized we were having this fantasy, and we realized that what it all comes down to is plumbing.
Yeah.
That's it,
Sewer, that's the biggest thing.
Just one in the middle, just everything flows down to the center.
Yep, just a little drain. But I think that is the thing, and I don't know what you guys have experienced, but there is I don't know if lonely is the right word, but there is isolation on the road, which is whether it's just you and your partner and your dog, me by myself, whatever the situation is, you lack the community like Matt has built here of 8 years of being a teacher. Right. He has a network of friends and all of that, versus if you're constantly transient, you lose that. And so I think there's a lot of van lifers that are seeking, hey, every once in a while, it'd just be nice to get together with a bunch of like-minded people and chat about experiences, share stories, share ideas, and then
take a shower.
Yeah, go to the bathroom, things like that, and then disperse from there. And so I think there's that need that everyone discovers as they're on the road, which is you need that balance in your life of a community, but also the freedom to do what you want to do.
Right.
And I think that's where that idea comes from, and why everyone sort of talks about it. Is they've all experienced it on the road. They say, this would be nice to have somewhere I can go.
Instagram has been really useful for us in terms of that. I know we have some friends down in San Diego who have been trying to really get the van life app moving, and it's such a wonderful idea, and at the same time, when I open it, a lot of times it's super frustrating to me because it doesn't have the critical volume of users. Yeah. Like I was sitting, we took a shower yesterday on our way into the Rockies out of Denver at Planet Fitness, and I opened the Van Life app, and I can, in the parking lot, there's like a Sprouts and a Planet Fitness, I can see one Class C RV parked, and 3 or 4 other van life vans, right? And I open the app and I can't see anybody. And I'm like, you guys, and I'm not saying I know how to do it, but it would be wonderful if that was out there and actually functional. And they just had a hard time like ramping it up to the point where people are actively and adequately using it. But that said, and so we've experienced, finally, this is the first time, because we're always down in San Diego, we've experienced for the first time this sort of solitude that you're talking about. And it's like, we're still getting on, don't worry about us, but I've never been like so frustrated with Colette in moments, and the dog too, and it's because there's nobody else out there. And like, we didn't go to a bar last night, and that's sort of our thing, is both of us are very outgoing people, and it's great to go to a bar and just like, hey, talk to me about whatever you want to talk about. That said, when you build this community, and this is the whole sort of surfing localism, and I know that it's in every other sport, no matter what you do.
I was going to jump in on that one.
It's like if you know the spot down 4 hours south of the border in Baja, there's this tension because I'm an anti-localist, I'm an inclusionary sort of person, and I want people to surf, and I want to surf with people, and I don't own this surf spot. But at the same time, like when I've been down in the Southeast, because I grew up in South Carolina, I went there for over the holidays. Last year I was able to take like a 3-week trip in the van to go out and see my folks. And there was something glorious about the fact that nobody knew what this fan was, It was like, I was completely under the radar,
No one has any idea.
And so there's that tension, right? Between
such a fine line. Like those apps sound so great in theory, and I like to use them, but I definitely have some spots that I go
that you're not posting.
That we don't necessarily post. And it's such like, I'm a backcountry skier. It's the same thing. Like I've always been I'm a teacher by heart, and so like I'm inclusive as can be. I want everyone to have the same shared experience. Whereas most of my friends who I backcountry ski with are like, Matt, if you tell another person about this goddamn spot.
I'm that guy too. I'm the you guy, not the
you
local
know,
guy.
it's a total balance, and I get it too, because like if everyone starts showing up to the same spot, you lose. You know, in the case of waves, you lose your wave. In our case, we lose our virgin powder. And it's like I shouldn't like. I'm glad they enjoyed it. You know, you kind of like go back to this like, damn, they took our spot, but I bet they had a great time. And so you're psyched on it growing, in that regards. But it's a balance, right?
And for everything, and I apologize for this, but it always comes back to the politics for me. And then the one question that I didn't ask you about the local communities in this area, and specifically, up a little bit more into the prize territory of Vail and that sort of thing is, I don't know. We stayed in a rest stop last night, so I don't know at all what the politics are. I haven't even driven around in those cities and like read the signs yet. What is the attitude of the landed gentry in these communities and stuff? You know,
it's Colorado in general. We're very lucky. The amount of BLM land that's here, the amount of, like, even compared to California has a ton of parks, but it's a lot of paid for parks, which is great. You know, they maintain them. There's just more population density.
Right.
Whereas here, so much of our land is just free to park on, and free to live on. And especially us, being in the Vail Valley, we're down in Eagle Gypsum for a reason. There's actually land still left here.
Sure.
And so there's public land for us to park on. There's, a rest stop where we can sleep in overnight. Like, there's more space down here.
Right.
Once you press up towards Vail, like the closer you get to the epicenter, if you will, the harder it is to park.
Yeah.
And that's where people do it, but it's definitely, people are very secretive of where they park.
Their little spots.
Yeah, like, it's everything between like, I got my spot behind the grocery store. Like, it's dark back there. I can stay there most nights.
Throw some leaves on top of the van so no one sees it.
I got my spot up this road.
Right.
But like Vail, it's tough.
Yeah.
That said, Vail has a massive housing crisis.
Yeah.
Because it is all $1 million mansions at this point. Anything that's left over from the 60s are tearing down and building $1 million mansions. So those who are out here to work for the mountain, to be teachers, to, everything that kind of allows Vail to function as it does, they can't find a place to live.
Yeah.
And so they're all looking for solutions. And, we definitely want to be a part of the conversation.
Well, this is straying away from the van thing completely, but since we're there, I want to know. We live in Encinitas, which is a very wealthy, old coastal surfing community. And the people there are very adverse to density development.
Yeah.
And, it seems to me like a no-brainer. If you need low-wage people, especially seasonal people, to come in and work, then the answer is to build up in small footprints.
Yeah.
Is there a similar sort of hostility towards,
Yes. Yes. And it's, it's that power of a few versus the masses.
Sure.
That hold a lot of weight in Vail. There are a lot of influential families who have been there a long time who pull weight. And the big example right now is they're trying to build an affordable housing, development in East Vail that would be, a ton of apartments intended for employees of the mountain, teachers, people who need some help in finding rent.
Yeah.
And there are a few people who are standing in the way of it. And they're claiming everything from it's ruining the elk migration patterns to, like they're basically just pulling every card they can.
Yeah.
And obviously they have their right to say this,
Sure.
Most of them are property owners there, around that area for millions of dollars and want things to stay as they are. But, big picture wise, if you want good teachers in your schools, if you want someone to bump the chair at the ski resort, if you want someone to serve you food at your favorite restaurant, they either need those housing projects, or they need designated van parking, or they need, there needs to be more things popping up because the resort is in this weird spot right now where they can't get enough employees. And so, if you want the thing that makes Vail Vail, you got to find a solution to this.
Yeah, or you could just exclude everybody and just have powder every day to yourself.
Yeah,
right?
But no one to actually run your chairlift.
Right.
And no one to serve you food. And no one to clean the toilets.
And that is, you see a lot of the service to Vail is down here in Eagle and Gypsum, 45 minutes away from Vail, because
and depending on the conditions, it's probably hard to get there sometimes, right?
Yeah, it can be.
We're in the right direction,
Okay.
in that the shot from here to Vail is fairly straightforward. If you go towards Summit County, you're going up over two mountain passes. Whereas this is for the most part, this commute to Vail is dry for the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it's just the last 10 minutes where you may deal with some weather.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
'Cause the weather hits
you
the
drive
mountain
up into
from
the
that
mountain.
direction. Yeah.
And what's nice about here is, so in Gypsum, there's a RV park called River Dance right down the road here.
Mm-hmm.
It's really nice. It's right on the Eagle River, goes right through Gypsum there. And the city just approved an expansion of that, I think from like 50 spaces to 250 spaces.
Oh, wow.
And so obviously RV park isn't necessarily intended for full-time living, but it is nice to see that this town is at least acknowledging that, hey, this is a cheap alternative, that if you have a little RV, you can park it over there and live out of it. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they've let it expand 5x is a good sign for this area. Mm-hmm. Vail is a whole other story, as Matt was saying. And so I think, there it's more of that conversation of hearing their side of it first, of hearing the problems. What are you so concerned about? Is it the elk migration? Is it, and then getting that list and then having thoughtful people put together a solution, and not in a, negative fighting way of, you're wrong, we're right, whatever, of just saying like, hey, let's work together, because like you said, like you could get better teachers, you can get more staff here, you can get better community service to the awesome amenities that are in Vail.
Right.
By solving this problem. And so everyone should be on the same page, but I think a lot of times it can come of all the ski employees will be fighting, we need more money, and everyone, no, you don't. Like, I think it just needs to be that conversation of, and again, maybe showing the vans is the way to do it, of like, hey, this is what we're talking about, or just coming up with solutions of like, it's not what you might have pictured in your head, that this actually is a more reasonable solution, or a more amenable solution to the town of Vail, where it won't lose its pristine by having $150,000 Mercedes vans parked there. It's like, it's not going to hurt anything, I promise you.
Yeah.
So,
and we're not going to mess with the elk migration. So
It's so curious to me.
Stay out of their way.
We always have this too. It's like, because I've worked in environmental politics for a long time, and the environmentalists are good NIMBY to a certain point, and then you find them fighting against density development sometimes on environmental basis, and it's the greenest way to live is sharing walls and building up and
that's efficiencies. It's sharing whatever it is. That's actually where I'm from, Minneapolis. They just passed, their big thing is creating more density in the city. And they just passed a pretty ridiculous law from a real estate perspective of, they have rezoned basically their entire city away from single family zoning.
I saw that. That's awesome.
So
I love it.
Everything is now R4. And so I've got a few friends in commercial real estate that were doing developments in R4, R5 zoning, which are like fourplexes, fiveplexes, things like that. And they stopped development because they were like, if this changes, where I now can buy any property, tear that house down and build a 4-story building, that is a monumental change.
Sure.
Whereas they used to have maybe 500 plots of land over a 10,000 plot area. Now it's 10,000 plots of land. And you can go build 4-story buildings.
So
and it's we'll see how it ends up being in Minneapolis, but I know it was a hugely contested thing of course, all the single family people were like, well, I'm going to be wedged between a bunch of 4-story buildings, and like now my little neighborhood is just going to be.
Yeah, but your local business is actually going to stay alive now because there's.
And
and your property value is going to explode because the developers want to buy your house and put 4 stories on it.
And there's still places that you can. Obviously, you don't want to make people move, but hey, if all of a sudden your property value goes up 3x, and you can take that money and move
wherever the hell you
8
want.
blocks down the street where that zoning didn't actually take place, it's not a bad idea. And so, it took years to contest that, but the fact that they passed it, I think, is a very positive thing. And the other thing that they're doing a lot of talk about is the tiny home movement. I have my real estate license in Minnesota. I took a continuing ed class on tiny homes this year, and it was all about, this is here to stay, that this is a incredibly efficient way to live. It's 200 square feet, like ours is 80 square feet. So I'm always like, it's pretty similar. But basically, the way it is now is you have to own a single family house. So you have to own a large home in order to live out of a tiny home, which is like the most.
What?
Well, because you have to own a property that is actually within the building codes, so a minimum of 600 square feet. Then you can have an accessory dwelling unit.
Oh, yes.
Behind your house, which would be your tiny house. So there is no way you could buy a plot of land.
You need a friend who's wealthy.
Exactly. And just build a tiny home. And so what they're trying to do is change those regulations of saying, hey, these were antiquated. These tiny homes didn't exist, but they are fully functional, fully insulated, fully livable. Can we change the building code? So if you own a little plot of land, you can throw a little tiny house on there and still be in the parameters of the egresses and, the lot dimensions. And there's traction with it. And I think it'll be a very positive thing if that passes in some places. There was a tiny home community in Durango here that just passed finally.
And so what does that look like? Is it just, let me restart this because it's about to stop itself. I'm super interested because I fetishized the tiny home thing for a while. And I spent 8 years without a car for environmental and ethical purposes. And I got obsessed with the tiny home thing, but all of the tiny homes that I saw were, by necessity, pretty far outside of town. Yeah. And so what you had was somebody living in 200 square feet driving around a 100 square foot car to get to the grocery store and all of that sort of stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, if I'm going to do that, why not drive my home around? Yeah. Right. And so what does a tiny home community in Durango look like? Is it just a bunch of little tiny homes right next to each other?
The Durango one's pretty cool. It's basically right downtown. Okay. It's like literally behind, like the Walmart is like right across the river from it. Okay. And there's like, I think it was a community center was right there, but it's like a plot of land in what would be otherwise downtown Durango. Wow. Smaller town, but still, how big's Durango? It's 100,000.
Yeah, that's if you want to fly to Telluride, you fly to Durango. Okay. If there's an airport there.
But how they're doing, I looked it up on their website, and you can either rent a plot of land for $500 a month and then put your tiny home on it. You can rent a plot of land with the tiny home already on it. So basically all in one land and home. I think that was like $800 or $900, like very reasonable. Wow. Yeah. And they just kind of get situated on this plot of land. And what they've done that's cool is my dream's always been I want a tiny home with a big garage for my toys. Keep my bikes in there, skis and all of that.
And your camper van.
And my camper van. But what they've done in this community actually is you can have that plot of land and then there's a storage facility on site. Okay. And so everyone can rent a storage facility.
For your surfboards and four-wheeler or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. For your toys. Right. And so, I think it's a pretty neat idea. Yeah. I know it took them a long time to pass. Like their goal was to open this time last year. Yeah. And they're just opening this fall. Right. I don't know what the battle was that they fought with town council, et cetera, but I know it is the first larger scale tiny home dwelling.
How big is it?
In like city limits is the big thing. Okay. I think there was only, I would bet no more than 20 plots.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But still pretty substantial. Yeah. Right downtown.
And there are some really interesting communities in California. There's a Netflix documentary, or there was on Netflix, about tiny home communities specifically. And one thing, I have a friend in Minneapolis who does commercial real estate, and all they do are trailer parks. And so he is very well versed in the tiny home living as a trailer park, basically. And we'd always talked about there's a stigma around the trailer park, and the way that they are usually designed doesn't have the community feel that tiny home dwellers would want. And we've talked a lot about it, and we was trying to figure out what the crux of it was. And I saw this documentary, and I figured out, at least for me, what the barrier was. And it was the tiny home communities that are built in California are built like neighborhoods. Yeah. So they have streets, they have sidewalks, they have grassed front yards, they have their little home, they have a little driveway. So it looks like a neighborhood that has just been shrunk down to a tiny home.
Tiny suburb.
Yeah, versus the trailer park is all dirt. It is just gridded side by side. There's no trees, there's no landscaping, there's no gardens, there's nothing that a neighborhood feel has. And that was the big difference, was basically if you were to create a community that actually had a shared sense of these are our sidewalks and our yards, and we can have our little community garden, and we can have the things that any neighborhood has, but it's just on a smaller scale, it becomes a much more aesthetically pleasing and a much more enjoyable place to live, I would imagine, versus if you're just crammed in, 2 feet away from your person next door with no natural vegetation, with no natural, environment around you other than just dirt. It's depressing in a way where, you want to be outdoors, and they've done all those studies around like just walking in nature, makes you happier and feel better. And so I think that when we went with the Durango one, it was a little bit interesting in that it seems like a dirt parking lot. I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but the ones that I saw in California, you see them and you're like, I could live there.
Yeah.
Because that looks like a home. That looks like a place that you could build a community around.
Right.
And so for me, that was always the thing. If we were to design a van land or something like that, would be, don't just throw it in a dirt parking lot where a bunch of vans go in and dirt kicks up and there's rocks. It's like, make it a place that people want to be and people want to live. And especially for outdoor enthusiasts, make it a beautiful place, and then they can call that home.
The thing that occurs to me when you say that is that when I'm going to a parking lot to hang out for the day or whatever, if it's at a park or over at the beach or whatever, I look for the spot that I can back up to the pretty thing.
Yeah.
And then if I can find a side spot that's got, even if it's just 4 feet of not another parking space right there, I back into that, because then I can sort of spill out a little bit into the, and there's this RV, and I haven't talked to the guy this much yet, but there's an RV that parks at the parking lot in Encinitas where we hang out pretty much every day, because we scurry away to our own little spot that I won't tell you about, the park overnight. And
Comes out on the app.
But there's a guy who gets, I think he works at one of the local gas stations, because I see it always parked outside of there, but he gets to the lot before everybody else every day, and he gets that spot that I'm talking about, and he's even got an AstroTurf mat that he lays out, and his old 12-year-old dog hangs out there all the time. Dude's got it dialed, but that's one of those things that I think about, it would make a van land a lot more. I hope you guys do it, man.
The little things in life just like that, and that is the van life to me. Of it makes you appreciate showers, toilet, the things that you took for granted your whole life. All of a sudden, it's when you get a hot shower, a real one, after doing my little van shower. You guys
keep mentioning that. Do you shower in your van? Because I
have one in my van. Our builds.
We have gym memberships, and I shower every day.
Yep.
Well, it forces you to go to the gym, which is nice.
Yeah. Well, I don't. I don't do anything.
That's what we always joke about too.
Yep. I was there's no way you can go to the gym, not work out, and just shower. That's not possible. About 2 days later, I was like, yep, I could definitely do this. And just walked right past everything and went to the shower. But
we call it 24 shower shitness.
Yeah, that's about right.
I like the front desk people too. When you walk in and walk out 10 minutes later, they're like,
you're like, yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah. I've been fantasizing about getting one of those guys on the podcast, because I want to be like, hey, what's the deal? I know that you know my deal, because I come in here every day. I don't work out. I surf. I'm not a fat dude or anything, but I don't work out in your gym. What do your coworkers think of me?
Yeah.
How many of me are there?
Yeah, that's what I don't want to know.
I've fantasized about going and getting absolutely ripped outside of their gym and then just walking in for 10 minutes and leaving every day. I don't know what you guys are doing. You just got to go in that bathroom for 10 minutes. You'll come out just looking like this. We should offer Planet Fitness membership with our vans. It's the best thing in the world. It's $22 a month for nationwide, and they're everywhere. It's tricky it up here, obviously, but in any major city, I have never had a problem.
Do we have anyone? Is Denver our nearest one?
Yeah. Yes. We will not shower today, actually. But that's okay, because we're not going to see anybody. Whoa, you could do a partnership with Planet Fitness.
Yeah, well, and so we'll quickly mention it, actually. We just got an email based off the Vail Daily ad or article from Harvest House. You heard about that? So Harvest Host, it's similar to Boondockers Welcome, or it's a membership website where they've partnered with wineries, breweries, golf courses all around the country, where those places will let you park your van, RV, whatever,
right?
And you're not expected, but maybe encouraged to go on a wine tasting or grab a beer at the brewery or go to the golf restaurant or whatever. But it's actually a guy who's based in Vail that runs it. And I had heard about it when I started my RV thing, because I was going to go around the country. I was like, where the hell do I park this thing? And that was one. They have 900 locations that they've now partnered with. And so we've thought about, I haven't talked to the guy yet. We're going to schedule a call here, but of offering, hey, you buy a van from us, you get a free Harvest House membership for the year.
Oh, cool, yeah.
To just get you started. Of like, here's the
it's
easy.
a starter pack,
Yeah, like, you
that
know,
sounds sweet.
You don't need to stress about, oh, do I know the parking laws and all that. It's just like, just go to the golf course.
I was reading on Boondockers Welcome to see if we could use that or maybe even work from the road for them because they had some jobs posted. But you have to have a crapper in your van for Boondockers Welcome. I don't know if that's the case for Harvest Host or not.
I don't think it is.
You can put a crapper in your van pretty easily.
Oh, I know. There's space, but like...
Yeah, there's a Home Depot
Not that I have one in mind, but
Home Depot bucket with the they make those where they just literally just goes into the bucket. You know? There's my best. But anyways, that was a really cool. It's a cool thing that I had seen, and the fact that the guy emailed us and he's local. I was like, that's awesome. So yeah, those little things are
that's cool.
helping enable the initial stress of all those questions of where do I shower, where do I go to the bathroom, where do I park. Like, it'd be great to just be like, hey, for your first 6 to 12 months, we'll give you some help here, and then you can figure it out on your own. So
yeah, Planet Fitness is a jam too. Like she doesn't even have a membership. She's my guest.
Yeah, and it's a free guest every time.
Yeah,
that
every time.
Blows my mind.
They're all over the place. But for where we're at, our closest one is 24 hours, so we belong to Dew Country Club.
Yep.
Very nice.
Yep.
Because you can.
Yeah. Well, in 24 hour in California, I mean, you can.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yeah. I found Planet Fitness to be nicer too, though.
Yeah, it is surprisingly for the cost for $22. Yeah. I
clean.
I spent a winter in Northern California, so in the Bay Area, and it was pretty gross because it's overly populated, and like for $22, that's where everyone goes to work out. Yeah. So like, there were a lot of Band-Aids and stuff in the showers.
Nice.
But when I've gone to like any other Planet Fitness, Jacksonville, Columbus, Ohio, like I've been to a lot of them, they are like pristine, and I'm like, how does this make sense? Like, I haven't paid I've paid Planet Fitness $22.
Yeah.
Maybe they're pulling a Jeff Bezos and just trying to put all the other gyms out of business.
Yeah, and then they'll jack the price up. Yeah, because I'm like, there's 1,200, so I've paid like 2 cents to each place a month.
Yeah.
And somehow the showers are like perfectly clean, the toilets are great, everything's new. Yeah, it's like, it's crazy. But yeah, that free guest thing blew my mind. The fact that you go in there with the person every time, it's no charge.
Yeah, call us Planet Fitness. So let's plug your shit now.
So we're Dave, Matt Vans. He's Dave, I'm Matt. 2 dudes building vans. No, I mean, it started with I was a teacher building a van for myself on a teacher's budget.
Yeah.
And people got excited. Dave got excited by how I was able to do it affordably.
Yeah.
And still have everything I needed and nothing I didn't.
Yeah.
So it turned out super well. We were going to build another one to rent. We ended up selling it. Built another and sold that one. And then, really figured out how to dial in our process, how to templatize things, how to make a really quality product for a really affordable price.
Cool.
And so we say we're out here enabling van life for the rest of us. So not just that 1% who can, afford that fancy 4x4 Sprinter van. We want to get people on the road as quickly and efficiently as possible, in a super quality build and an affordable price. And we've got 36 vans on the road in the past year, so we, have kind of figured out our process. We're always kind of iterating, getting better every day. But at this point, we build a pretty sweet van. I live in one of our vans full time and love it. And kind of built this cool community around it, and want to keep doing it as long as we can. So.
Oh. One quick question before we end that I forgot to ask. Why Promaster?
Great question. That was me making a choice originally.
Yeah.
Having looked at the Sprinter, the Transit, and the Promaster. Number one, the Promaster's front-wheel drive. And so in the mountains, for me on a budget, I could only afford the rear-wheel drive Transit or rear-wheel drive Sprinter. And that terrified me. So right there, that was qualifying factor number one. Number two, the Promaster has straighter walls. So, being my first build, it was going to be the easiest to build. And that's proven true, start to finish. Lets me sleep across.
Do you build all of your beds that way? Across?
Yeah. Well, not most of them. We're building one right now coming lengthwise for a taller guy.
Yeah.
So basically it's a full king size. But we're 5'10" coming across, which for me is perfect. And for most of our customers actually ends up being enough.
Yeah.
I'd say the next one too is it's easy to repair. You start looking at the Sprinter. For me originally, I was like, hey, I could stretch my budget and get into a Sprinter, but that first repair, even that first oil change, it's like, there goes my budget. So to be able to have something that's easy to fix, easy to repair was huge. And obviously the Transit fits that category and the Promaster. But the Promaster was the only one that checked all those boxes.
Right.
Like front-wheel drive, easy to build on, and easy to repair. And affordable. I mean, there's a bunch of them out there. UPS uses them, Amazon uses them, and so they get flipped over quickly. So easy to find a used, affordable Promaster.
Oh, and this just occurred to me again. Do you buy the vans and then sell them to folks, or do I bring you a van to build?
Yeah, so we originally started off buying the vans used, because I bought it for myself.
Yeah.
Building it out and selling that full product, the full kit and caboodle, if you will. Our last 15 vans have all been brought to us by customers. And so to us, we think that's the best model, is they can pick the van that fits their budget, their needs, color, condition, etc. And what we say is we'll help people from start to finish on that process. We've seen hundreds of them come across our screen. So we have people send us vans that they find online. We recommend, hey, send them a mechanic to check out the engine. Hey, I think that's a great deal. Maybe keep looking. Things like that to guide them through that process. They can also finance it better that way. Through the dealership.
Sure.
And then we do the build.
Right.
That said, we are in the process of getting our dealership license, so that we can actually procure used Promasters.
Right.
Because we do like that model. We've had, at least 5 customers who basically have come to us just because we had the van. They're like, hey, we started this process. We were overwhelmed from day one of just trying to find the Promaster, yet alone the build. Like, hey, we got you. So we found them a van, met the requirements that they wanted in it, built it, and kind of full kit caboodle for them.
It seems to me in that scenario, one of the advantages is if I'm buying the van from you, I can get the build included in my financing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's one of the big advantages
exactly.
as a person who might not have whatever your outfit costs.
And that's the other cool one we found is Lightstream.com finances used RVs. And their tagline is, we'll finance anything.
Wow.
And so when we do have the van and build all in one, customers have been able to go to Lightstream and finance the whole thing.
Okay.
So that's been pretty cool for them too.
Yeah, because even though we are probably the most affordable build out there, we're $18,500 for the full base build. That's still a lot of cash.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
If we're dealing with regular people that are teachers or doing whatever else, there's not a lot of them that are just going to be, I've got $18,500 just burning a hole in my pocket to go spend. And so to be able to have a place like Lightstream to go to say, you can basically say that the end result is going to be $39,000 for the whole build in the van, and you can get that all financed.
Give me that money, and then I can go use it in two different places.
I think the biggest thing too is just location of we have gone to 12 different states probably to go pick up vans, Florida, Indiana, Texas, Arizona, you name it, we've probably gone there. And so if you have a regular job, it's you can't just peace out for 5 days and fly to Florida to go pick up a van.
To go maybe not buy a van.
Exactly.
To go shopping.
And so that's been the biggest, because again, our goal is to enable the lifestyle. That is our goal. And so if we run into a problem where people are saying, hey, I can't go to Florida and the ones in Denver are, $8,000 more, we want to be able to say, like I said, we got you. We'll go get the van, we'll figure that out. And so what we're trying to figure out is how can we get 12 vans here so that people don't have to go and travel anywhere, and they can buy the van from us and not have our build out and just buy the van and go wherever they want to get it done. Or they can say, we want that van and we want your build out, so we'll just drive it around the lot.
Around the corner.
One-stop shop.
Yeah, cool.
So that's the goal. And also there's just a reality of legally you can only sell so many vehicles in a year before you have to become a dealer.
Oh, really?
2.
Wow.
So very quickly, you have to go to the dealership route. And so obviously with the popularity of our build, it has very quickly escalated into, okay, we need to become a dealer in order to sell these. So, so it's a good thing. Again, there's not a lot of other van companies that are doing that because of how difficult it is to get your dealership license, to maintain that business and the liability that comes with it. It's obviously a bigger hassle for us to do it, but if our goal is to enable the lifestyle, we kind of have to.
And you're moving a lot of builds.
So.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we did it. That was episode 29 of From the Van, featuring Dave and Matt of Dave and Matt Vans, dmvans.com.
If you're looking to have somebody else build out a pretty basic, relatively inexpensive van for you, they're probably worth looking into. It's really cool to make an appointment to talk to some dudes that you just absolutely know nothing about and come out with a really fascinating conversation. I really enjoyed these guys, and I hope to run into them again soon. Thank you so much for listening. If you've made it this far, go to FromTheVan.com, subscribe to our YouTube and Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave us a bunch of wonderful reviews using Byzantine and out-of-date language. And please come back next Tuesday for another episode of From the Van.